Your cholesterol is high, so you did what everyone tells you to do. You cut the eggs, you cut the butter. Maybe you even gave up the Sunday bacon your father used to make. And 3 months later you went back for blood work, and the number barely moved. Maybe it moved 5 points. Maybe it went up. Here's the part almost nobody sits you down and explains. Most of the cholesterol floating in your blood right now didn't come from your plate. Your own liver made it. Every single day, your liver dumps cholesterol into your gut inside a fluid called bile. And here's the part that changes everything. Your body turns around and pulls almost all of it right back in. Somewhere around 95% gets reabsorbed. You're not eating your way to high cholesterol most of the time. You're recycling it. Over and over. Like a boomerang that keeps coming back to the same hand no matter how far you throw it. That's why cutting one food after another never worked for you. You were fighting the wrong battle. What actually moves the number is different. It's foods that grab that bile down in your gut and drag the cholesterol out of your body before that boomerang can swing back around. I'm Dr. Eric Wells, and I've spent years watching patients get frustrated with the egg and butter approach before we ever got to the food that actually does the job. Today, I'm giving you 10 of them. Some of these work faster than people expect, and I mean that honestly, not as a headline. Before the list, one thing. I took what I walk my own patients through in the office and put it into a simple eating plan built specifically for people protecting their heart after 60. There's a link on your screen if you want it. No pressure. Just wanted you to know it exists. Now, hold one idea in your head, because it makes this entire list click into place. Every single food coming up does one of two jobs. It either grabs bile in your gut so you pass the cholesterol out instead of recycling it, or it feeds the good bacteria living in your gut that break cholesterol down so your body simply can't absorb it back. That's the whole mechanism. Nothing mystical about it. The more of these foods sitting on your plate, the more cholesterol leaves your body through the normal exit instead of settling quietly into your artery walls. If you want a number to aim for, 5 to 10 grams of soluble fiber a day is where real movement tends to start. That's roughly what Mayo Clinic points toward for a meaningful drop. And you'll hit that easily with what's coming. There's a flip side too, and it's simple, so I'll say it once. Saturated fat and refined starch, nutsimp, the fried stuff, the white bread, the pastry case by the register, and quietly tell your liver to hold on to cholesterol instead of dumping it out through bile. So while you're adding these 10 foods in, easing off that other stuff is what actually lets them do their job. You don't have to be perfect, you just can't be fighting yourself with both hands. One more thing, and it's cheap, and almost nobody does it. Ask Dr. Eric Wells or your own doctor for a blood test called lipoprotein a. Say it exactly like that. Lipoprotein a. It's a genetic piece of your cholesterol picture that food cannot touch, and most people go their entire lives without ever getting it checked once. One test, one time, tells you whether there's a hidden risk sitting underneath your regular numbers. Then get to work on the plate, because that part, 3 times a day, is yours to control. Let's start at number 10. Number 10. Garlic. Crush a raw clove and it releases a compound called allicin. That's the sharp smell that hits you the second the knife breaks the skin. Allicin does 2 things worth caring about. Research suggests it may help nudge bad cholesterol down a little, and it can calm the low-grade inflammation that makes cholesterol more likely to stick to artery walls in the first place. The National Institutes of Health has reviewed the research, and the honest read is that the effect is real but modest, a few points, not a miracle swing. So think of garlic as a helper on this list, not the main event. It's also been associated with a slight dip in blood pressure, so it's doing your heart a second small favor while it's at it. There's a trick almost everyone skips. Allicin only forms after you crush or chop the clove and let it sit for about 10 minutes. Throw raw garlic straight into a screaming hot pan and you destroy most of it before it does anything for you. So crush it, let it rest on the cutting board while you get the rest of dinner moving, and add it in near the end of cooking. If you'd rather roast it whole in the skin. That protects more of the allicin. 1 or 2 cloves a day is plenty. And skip the aged black garlic and the pickled jars if cholesterol is your specific goal, because a lot of the active compound is already gone by the time it reaches you. Number 9. Onions. Onions carry a prebiotic fiber called inulin, and inulin is exactly what those good gut bacteria are hungry for. Feed them, and they break down more bile, which helps push it out of your system. Every bit of bile you lose forces your liver to pull more cholesterol out of your blood to make replacement bile. That loop is now working for you instead of against you. Onions bring a second compound too, called quercetin, an antioxidant tied in research to calmer inflammation and, in some studies, slightly lower blood pressure. The whole onion family counts here. Red onions, white onions, leeks, shallots, garlic again. Cooking them is fine, by the way. That prebiotic fiber holds up to heat, so a pan of slow caramelized onions on a Tuesday night is still feeding your gut exactly the way you want. Onions do one more thing people forget to mention. They make genuinely healthy food, beans, the greens, actually taste like something you'd want to eat again tomorrow. That matters more than people admit, because the best cholesterol food on the planet does absolutely nothing sitting untouched in your fridge because it's bland. Cook onions into whatever you're already making, and don't peel away too many outer layers, because a good amount of the beneficial compound sits close to the skin. Number 8. Broccoli. It brings soluble fiber, sure, but the real trick is a compound called glucoraphanin. Chop the broccoli, and an enzyme converts that into sulforaphane. Sulforaphane switches on a protective system inside your cells called NRF2. Think of it as your body's own internal cleanup crew against the daily wear that stiffens blood vessels over the years. Researchers at Johns Hopkins have studied sulforaphane for years and linked it to lower bad cholesterol and reduced inflammation markers. Large population studies also link higher intake of cruciferous vegetables with lower rates of heart disease overall. Here's the part almost nobody does. Chop your broccoli and let it just sit on the cutting board for 20 or 30 minutes before you cook it. That rest gives the enzyme time to actually form the sulforaphane. Cook it the second you cut it, and the heat wipes out most of the benefit before it ever develops. Steam it until it's just tender. Compelwefringe, don't boil it into gray mush, because boiling leaches the good compounds right out into the water you're about to pour down the sink. If you want to go further, broccoli sprouts carry far more sulforaphane, gram for gram, than the grown florets. And if you genuinely cannot stand broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, and Brussels sprouts are cousins in the same family doing the same job. Number 7. Ground flaxseed. This might be the single easiest thing on this entire list to work into your day. Flax is one of the richest sources of that gel-forming soluble fiber that traps bile in your gut. On top of that, it carries a plant omega-3 and compounds called lignans, and both of those appear to support healthier cholesterol numbers on their own. Put it together, and studies referenced by Cleveland Clinic show ground flax can meaningfully support lower bad cholesterol, especially eaten daily. But there's a catch, and it's a big one, so listen closely. Whole flax seeds go straight through you. You get almost nothing from them because the shell is too tough for your gut to break open on its own. They have to be ground. Buy them pre-ground, or grind them yourself in a cheap little coffee grinder, and keep them in the fridge so the oils don't turn rancid. 2 tablespoons a day is the target. Stir it into oatmeal, yogurt, a smoothie, sprinkle it over soup, you won't taste it, and it costs next to nothing. Ground chia seeds work as a decent backup if flax isn't available. Drink a little extra water alongside either one so the fiber moves through comfortably. Number 6. Apples. That old line about an apple a day actually holds up under scrutiny. Apples are loaded with a soluble fiber called pectin, and pectin grabs cholesterol in your gut and helps carry it out. There's real evidence behind this, not just an old saying passed down. A 2020 study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition had participants eat 2 apples a day and tracked their bad cholesterol and triglycerides dropping over the following weeks. The whole apple offers a second benefit too. It's bulky and filling. Eat one, and you're genuinely satisfied, less likely to reach for something out of the pantry an hour later. Just make sure it's the actual fruit. Applesauce carries a fraction of the fiber, and apple juice has almost none, plus a heavy hit of sugar that can push triglycerides in the wrong direction. Eat the whole apple, skin included, because a good portion of the pectin lives right there in the peel. And apples aren't alone. Pears, oranges, and even the plain carrots sitting in your crisper drawer carry pectin too. Mix them in through the week. Quick moment, if any of this is landing for you, tap subscribe and hit the like button. Takes 2 seconds, genuinely helps this reach more people who need it. Back to the list. Number 5. Walnuts. Most of this list is built around fiber, but walnuts earn their spot a completely different way. They're loaded with a polyunsaturated fat, including a plant omega-3, and when that fat replaces the saturated fat you'd otherwise be snacking on, bad cholesterol tends to drop, and the lining of your arteries tends to function better. The American Heart Association has linked a small daily handful of walnuts to lower heart disease risk, with studies showing a modest but real reduction in bad cholesterol. Walnuts carry the most of that plant omega-3, but almonds and pistachios support cholesterol too, so pick whichever one you'll actually keep stocked in the pantry. Watch the portion though. Nuts are calorie-dense. A small handful, about a quarter cup, is the sweet spot. Not the whole bag in front of the evening news. Not the honey-roasted kind either. This is also the right moment to clear up something people get backwards constantly. The saturated fat in fatty cheese, fried food, and packaged pastries tells your gut to hold on to bile and cholesterol instead of releasing it. But the fat in nuts, olive oil, avocado, and fish works the opposite direction. It's the hard, solid fat, to the kind still firm at room temperature, sitting on the counter, that quietly works against you. Number 4. Barley. Now we're into the heavy hitters. Barley is loaded with a specific soluble fiber called beta-glucan, and beta-glucan is, frankly, the best bile trapper on this entire list. It forms a thick gel in your gut, and it's very, very good at its one job. The evidence is solid enough that the FDA allows a heart health claim printed right on barley packaging. A review of the research found barley beta-glucan associated with roughly a 7% drop in bad cholesterol. The easiest way to use it is a straight swap. Trade the white rice next to your dinner for barley 1 or 2 nights a week, or toss a handful into soup or stew where it thickens everything up nicely on its own. You've just turned a fiber-free starch into one of the strongest cholesterol tools sitting in the grocery aisle. Choose whole barley over pearled barley when you can find it. Pearling strips the outer layer, taking some fiber along with it. Here's a bonus trick that works for barley or any grain, honestly. Cook it, cool it in the fridge overnight, eat it the next day. The cooling process creates something called resistant starch, which feeds good bacteria and helps flatten blood sugar too. 2 benefits from 1 leftover container. Number 3. Black beans. If you're eating meat most nights of the week, this is your single biggest lever to pull. Swap the meat for black beans a few nights a week and watch what happens. Beans bring soluble fiber plus resistant starch, and that resistant starch feeds bacteria that produce butyrate and fuel for the lining of your gut, and part of how your body keeps cholesterol moving out instead of cycling back in. The research here is genuinely strong. A review published in the Canadian Medical Association Journal pooled multiple studies and found that just 1 serving of beans or lentils a day was associated with roughly a 5% drop in bad cholesterol. That's a plain, cheap food quietly doing what a lot of people are hoping a pill will do for them. I'll be straight with you, beans make some people a little gassy the first week or two. That's your gut bacteria adjusting to new fiber, and for most people it settles down within days. A couple tricks help. If you're using dried beans, soak overnight and dump that water before cooking. If you're using canned, rinse them thoroughly. Start with half a cup and build from there. Push through the adjustment. The payoff is worth the mild discomfort. Number 2. Navy beans. All beans help, but the small white ones are the soluble fiber champions of the entire bunch. A single cup carries around 19 grams of fiber. That's more than most adults eat across an entire day, sitting in one bowl. That fiber isn't only trapping bile, it's feeding the whole crew of good bacteria we keep circling back to, the ones that convert cholesterol into a form your body simply can't reabsorb. It doesn't have to be navy beans specifically. Lentils, chickpeas, kidney beans, pinto beans, they all pull in the same direction, so rotate through the week and don't get stuck eating the same one until you're sick of it. Worth knowing, beans show up in the regular diet of nearly every community researchers point to when they study the longest living populations on Earth. That's not a coincidence. Keep a few cans in the cupboard, rinse well to cut sodium and reduce gas, and throw a cup into soups, salads, chili, whatever's already cooking. Cheap, plain, almost boring, and it flat out works, which is exactly why it lands this high. And number 1. The food with more research behind it for cholesterol than almost anything else on the shelf. Oats. Oats carry that same beta-glucan found in barley, and honestly, the body of research on oats might be the deepest of anything on this entire list. Get about 3 grams of beta-glucan a day, roughly one solid bowl of oatmeal, and both Mayo Clinic and the FDA point toward a 5 to 10% drop in bad cholesterol within weeks, not years. That's the fast in this title, and I'm using that word carefully because the research actually backs it up. Use real oats, steel-cut or old-fashioned rolled, and skip the sugary instant packets, because that added sugar works against the very thing you're trying to fix. Oat bran, if you want to push further, packs even more beta-glucan than regular oats per serving. Top the bowl with berries or a spoon of that ground flax from earlier instead of a mound of brown sugar. Add a little cinnamon. You'll have done more for your heart before 9 in the morning than a decade of skipping eggs ever managed. Now, one important thing I promised at the start, and I want to be honest with you about it. Some of you are going to do every single thing on this list, faithfully, and your numbers might still stay stubborn. You are not doing anything wrong. Roughly a third of people fall into what researchers sometimes call super absorbers. Your genetics program your gut to grab and recycle cholesterol more aggressively than average. If you've been eating clean for months with little movement, or high cholesterol runs hard through your family even in the thin, active ones, this may be part of your story. You didn't cause that. Genetics did. The encouraging part is that genetic overabsorption is exactly what a daily wall of soluble fiber is built to counter. If this sounds like you, 3 foods on this list carry most of the weight: oats, barley, and beans. The key word is daily, not occasionally. That consistency is what tends to bring a stubborn number down, sometimes enough to keep a second medication off the table, though that conversation always belongs with your doctor, not a video. There's one more tool worth mentioning specifically for stubborn absorbers: plant sterols and stanols. These are compounds that compete with cholesterol for absorption in your gut and physically block some of it from getting in. You'll find them added to certain spreads and orange juices and in smaller natural amounts in nuts, seeds, and vegetable oils. Around 2 grams a day has been associated with an additional 10% or so drop in bad cholesterol in research, a meaningful dent worth asking your doctor about if you fall into that stubborn category. People ask me constantly, how fast is fast, really? If you build this consistently into your week, bad cholesterol can begin shifting somewhere around 2 to 4 weeks in, and it tends to keep improving from there with continued habit. One honest note: cholesterol circulates in your blood for a few days at a stretch, so eating perfectly for 2 days right before a blood test won't manufacture a good number out of nowhere. It's the daily habit stacked over weeks that actually moves the needle. One more small addition before we close this out. A spoonful of plain psyllium husk stirred into a glass of water is about as pure a source of soluble fiber as you can buy. It's the same compound found in most fiber supplements on pharmacy shelves. Once a day, with plenty of water, and it works right alongside everything else on this list. Now, something I need to say plainly, because it matters more than anything else in this video. Food is powerful, but it works alongside your doctor, not instead of your doctor. If your cholesterol is very high, if you've already had a cardiac event, or if you're currently on a statin, please do not stop, skip, or adjust anything because of a video. Bring this list to Dr. Eric Wells, or your own physician, and ask to give food a genuine, honest run for a few months with a recheck scheduled. For some people, these changes are enough on their own. For others, it's what allows a lower dose of medication to finish the job comfortably. Either way, the plate is the foundation everything else stands on. If you change exactly one thing starting tomorrow morning, make it breakfast. A bowl of real oats with a spoon of ground flax stirred in is already attacking the recycling loop that's kept your number stuck, possibly for years. And if 10 foods feels like too much to juggle at once, don't overthink it. Oats in the morning, beans at dinner, a small handful of walnuts and an apple somewhere in between. Do that most days of the week, and you've essentially covered the whole list without trying to memorize anything. This information is for general education and is not a substitute for personalized medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always talk with your doctor before making changes to your diet, especially if you take cholesterol medication or have an existing heart condition. Individual results vary based on genetics, health history, and consistency. If this helped you today, subscribe so the next one finds you, and leave a comment telling me which food on this list you're starting with tonight. Next time, I want to walk you through the blood pressure habit almost nobody checks until it's already a problem, and why the reading you get sitting in a doctor's office